like comedians who've gone on to direct, like Zach Kreger, Jordan Peele, uh,
Hmm.
John Krasinski. A lot of these big names in comedy have gone on to do really great things in horror. And Zach Kreger was in The Whitest Kids You Know, which is I think is a
Yeah.
really funny comedy troupe. The not super well known amongst like everyone, I think, but like if you have seen their stuff, they're really good. And so I was when I heard he was the director of this, I got pretty excited because I was like, oh, I know him. So this is like interesting to like go support that. But when this also kind of dropped, it was one of those things where it was like, go see this movie, don't know anything about it before you see it, and have a
Yeah.
blast. And so I was like, all right, Kerri, let's go see what this is. And so I had those two things get me excited about it. I knew it was something to do with like Airbnb. That's all I knew. And then as Kerri and I are really big into Airbnb, like when we go places, a lot of the times we're looking at Airbnb. So this is like
Yeah.
the Airbnb of nightmares kind of deal. And yeah, but I really enjoyed it. You were kind of Hunter was kind of live texting a little bit while he was watching it, and didn't know how he was going to end up feeling about it because it is a movie that sets up something and then it takes twists and turns and then it goes like to a completely different thing and then that ties in and it's just a really interesting way of like telling a story. It's not quite like Pulp Fiction, but it's in a way it kind of goes to that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's scary, it's funny, and I think very unique. I really like this one.
Okay.
Carrie.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, just stop. Even though we're still in non-spoiler, just stop and go watch the movie. I think the best way,
Mm-hmm.
like Chad said, I hadn't seen a preview even going into it. I think, just started hearing about it when Chad was like, "Oh, let's get tickets and go see this," and people were saying generally good things. I would say it wasn't in my top 10 favorite horror movies of the
Mm-hmm.
year. And when we get into spoiler thoughts, I'll kind of explain why. I think it's just my personal horror tastes
Okay.
more than anything else. But I thought this movie was really fun, really unique, extremely tense throughout the whole thing. Yeah, and just one of those movies where it is really best to go into this totally blind because I think you'll have so much more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The only thing I knew about this movie was watching the first teaser trailer, and I love that the trailer didn't show anything. It just showed you what the basic premise of the movie is, and that's it. And I was like, okay, I'm in. An Airbnb horror film, I'm into it. And something happens in the movie where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but on a rewatch, which I rewatched it today,
Ooh,
I
nice.
really liked it. I really liked the twist it took, and I'll explain more in our spoiler review later.
Yeah, yeah, we're actually we've only seen it once in the theaters,
Yeah.
so we're still going off of that first watch. Seeing it again, with knowing how everything unfolds would be very interesting. But I like how this is kind of built into sections, and then it kind of all comes together. I love how it like has you asking questions at the beginning. You're wondering because it starts with like two actors and then you're just kind of wondering like if anything's up with them. And I'll get into more in the
Mhm.
spoiler talk, but I just thought that was like a really interesting thing. And then it kind of like does not go at all how you think it is going to, which I really like. um yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a non spoiler like synopsis of the film, which we'll get into real
Mhm.
quick. The story sees a young woman finds out that a rental house she reserved has been accidentally double booked with a man while not knowing of a dark secret within the home. That's
Yeah.
the setup of the film, which is what you get from the trailers. Um, so, guys, if you have not seen this movie, like leave now, go watch it, and come back and join us. because this is a movie that you definitely don't want to be spoiled for, because there are a lot of twists and turns in this film, and that's why it makes it so unique. So let's get into the full spoiler discussion. I'm super excited. So the film stars Georgina Campbell and Bill Skarsgard, who we see in the opening of the film. We see Georgina Campbell. Her character is outside in the rain, going into her Airbnb apartment, and she realizes that somebody's there already, double booked with another agency, I guess. And what a great way to start off the film. And it's kind of dark, dreary. You can't really see anything. You're just like, okay, I get the tension of what they're going for, and the fact that it's set in Detroit. It's set in this kind of mixish neighborhood where it's like that's the only house that's like livable in this entire neighborhood, and it really sets a great picture of like, okay, how is this movie going to go?
Well, it's interesting too because just what you said there, and already we're in spoiler territory, so if you haven't clicked away and you need to, go ahead and click away, because I don't think we actually find out just how bad of a neighborhood this actually is until later. Because at first,
it's until the next morning.
Yeah, first until she's actually going to her job interview.
Yeah.
Because at first you just see this house and it doesn't really show, it's dark, so you don't really see how the state of the other house is. And I don't even know if she notices how bad this neighborhood actually is until the next morning herself. And then this is basically a nightmare scenario because she's, out of town. Like, Kerri and I have been at so many Airbnbs that, like, I don't even know. I guess we would just try to go find a hotel. Like, if like we went to an Airbnb, someone's there, and then they're like, oh, we booked this on HomeAway or whatever the app is called, and they're like, oh, I have it on another app, and I'm supposed to be here. See, especially if like you're like a single woman. And then you go there, and it's a guy that's there, and it's a guy as creepy as Bill Skarsgard. We've seen him be creepy before.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm already on to you, Bill. Is something going on with you here? You can start putting on the clown makeup. So yeah, this is already a very good nightmare scenario that if you've done a lot of these Airbnbs, that you can already be in that, like, oh, you can see yourself in that situation.
Yeah, and I'll say, if we're starting off at the beginning, I will say the thing I think I disliked about this movie was every single decision our main character makes in the first half of the movie. I'll say up until we cut to Justin Long. After that, she makes good decisions, but up until we cut to Justin Long, every single decision, I'm like, this is the opposite of what you should be doing. You should have never went in there with him. Like, I understand Bill Skarsgård doesn't turn out to be a bad guy. You should not have been there in the first place, though.
But on the other hand of that, like, I totally get what you're saying. On the other hand of that, I feel like that is a horror movie. There's a lot of times characters are making bad decisions in the beginning, and then they learn over the course of the movie to get better.
Like,
you don't have a movie if you don't have her making those decisions. So the movie where she goes to a hotel and nothing happens, and she gets the job. That's the movie.
Or even,
I mean, I will say, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Hunter.
I'm just messing up.
I will say there are now, if they haven't had these lines in the movie, and it's just her kind of going in, guns blazing, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of dumb. But the fact that she is kind of on edge at the beginning, she doesn't know what to do. She's trying to call Airbnb to see what's happening. She's trying to, see what's going on. She asked Bill Skarsgård's character to bring up his ticket or his information email so that she knows he's supposed to be there, and that she, even down to like, what's I trying to say? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I also think like on a rewatch, it's probably more interesting too, because from what I'm remembering, I remember Bill Skarsgård being very persuasive, very charming, and he's also kind of like, hey, I mean, you know, you do what you got to do. You can go to a hotel, but they're probably booked up. There's like a conference.
Yeah,
in town,
a conference is in town, and that's what it was. She was trying to book different hotels.
Say I could even excuse her up until like staying the night with Bill Skarsgård. I could potentially excuse that. I mean, even so, that just you're gonna be able to find someplace else no matter what, even another Airbnb. But it's the fact that he wakes up. This is literally in the entire block. This is the only house that is not like condemned. There's clearly no one else living in any of these other houses. And then she goes back, she returns. It seems like she's like potentially going to stay there like for another night. And then she starts investigating the rest of the house and like keeps going. And I'm like, oh my God, you need to just leave. Once you see that like video camera and stuff, I'm sorry, you need to leave.
That was so creepy. That was like something from Hostel.
Yeah, that's like, I'm like, her actions, I think when she starts exploring that basement, I'm like, I can't hang with you anymore. This is like, I already really couldn't hang with you, but I swear at this point.
I will say though, it's, oh, sorry.
No, fine. Go ahead, Honor.
To counteract that point though, when she sees the murder room, I'm calling it, because there was a bloody handprint there, she does walk and doesn't go that further, and then she finds Bill Skarsgård's character, and it's only when he goes down into the steps.
Okay.
He goes down further and further, and she doesn't hear from him. She's calling his name. That's when she starts going down to see if he's okay, if maybe he tripped, he fell, maybe he's hurt, maybe he needs help. That's when she starts going down there further and further.
I know Kerri's mindset is, what is up with this fucking guy? Like, don't go. He's funny. He's messing with you.
No, I mean, not even that, but I'm just like, it's
not even worth it to save this guy.
Well, it's not to fall. I would say she could have been at least, even if she wanted to go down there with him, she could have been on the phone with the police at the same time.
Yeah. And then she could have, and if she didn't actually call the police, I get that. But then we also see later just how shitty these police are.
I guess it's true. I think she did call the police earlier when that guy was like banging on
trying to attack her, banging on the door.
Yeah, she thought he was trying to attack her. He's actually trying to just save her life.
And they just probably don't even want to come around that area. It's like it's not even worth.
Yeah, it's such a condemned area that they're like, crime's going to happen down there. It's not even worth dealing with every day. But
like, just like every little thing in this movie that you suddenly find out, because you're walking with her into this basement, she's doing the light in there to try to see in there, to see in this dark place. Don't just go into a dark place. Like, at least she's kind of smart enough to do that. But then, Kerri's right. Like, she sees this room and she's still like, I'm going to go down these steps into this dungeon, like, I don't know, cave thing, down this long thing of steps that's like, how deep is this thing? And she goes down there, and then I think that's where it gets like the first like big WTF thing happens.
Yeah,
that was gets
that
murdered.
one track. Yeah, that one track shot, and then Bill Skarsgård crawling on his hands and knees out of the darkness scared the fuck out of me.
And you're still in that mindset of, okay, something's wrong with him. He's going to kill her, or I don't know what's going to happen. And then.
Yeah, it's really cool because something's up with the house. And I think at first it's kind of set up that it's going to be Bill Skarsgård is like, a killer or something. Shouldn't have came in, she shouldn't have trusted him. And then I think in the middle of the night when she hears him having nightmares and wakes up, and you see in the background, you see like the door, I think the laundry room door closed or something.
Closed, yeah.
And even then though, you're still kind of like, okay, then maybe
someone else down there.
Yeah, there's someone else clearly, but is he like in partnership with them? Like,
but you could also, because I was sitting there wondering, I mean, you don't know much about this movie. It's called Barbarian. and then you're just like, okay, what's the barbarian in this? And then I'm just sitting there also just kind of like, could this be supernatural? Is it like a ghost thing? Is that what shut the door? Like, was it like an old? I don't know. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. But then, just the whole WTF with the because he comes out and he's like, don't go down that way, don't go down that way, and you're like, that's probably the way that go back the way you came. That's the best way to go. And then from the other direction, because you're like, for me, that was also kind of like a, spoilers if you haven't seen Scream, but like it's a very Scream thing. Like, no, it's him. No, it's him. Kind of like, but it's like, don't go down that way. It's like, don't trust that guy. He just came down from where it hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this idea because, like, one, it's a take on like the Psycho formula where it's like we follow the Bill Skarsgård character from pretty much the beginning of the film. And you're like, okay, either he's going to be the hero and he makes it to the end with her, or he's the villain. And I was like, they could just make, Bill Skarsgård's character, Keith, the villain, and it would be okay. It'd be formulaic. But it's like the fact that they took Bill Skarsgård as an actor, and you're like, that guy, is Pennywise. I know, like, he's not a good guy. And then they turn it on its head where they're like, no, he's a good guy in this film. He does stuff like to try to protect Tess in this film. You're like, okay, I like that little misdirection. And then the creature comes out and kills him. And you're like, oh shit! Like it was like complete misdirect the whole time.
And I felt so bad for him because I was like, as soon as you know that like he's not a bad guy, you're like, oh, I kind of like that character though. Like he was. Because when you look at it in context of him, like when you're suspicious of him, you're kind of like, what are you doing with that wine? But then the second time, he just like wants to have wine with this poor girl that can't find a place, and he's just like, hey, just at least have some wine with me. And it's not creepy when you look at it from the back. And then he's like, watch me pour it, or you pour it, so you know that.
You pour it, so. Yeah, like the wine bottle is like completely closed. He's like, I want you in here, so I'm not putting anything in there, and I'm gonna open it in front of you, blah blah blah. And then what's great is they start having conversations on a second rewatch. I'm like, okay, I can get into this conversation more and more because I know that Keith is not a bad guy. You know what I mean? I can watch it and be like, I can enjoy these conversations more because I'm not on edge. And they have a discussion about, the mindset of a male versus the mindset of a female, where she's like, if you, came up to the door and it was raining and it was dark, I would never let you in. But, because the roles are reversed and I'm a lonely woman out in the rain, you let me in. And she's like, that would never happen. The dynamic is too, like, there's too much, like, trauma and too much, like, risk to do it the opposite way, which I love that conversation that they have.
Yeah, it shows us like where our society has been and still is at this time, the difference between, being alone and being a man, being alone, being a woman, whatever, that kind of situation. It's a good commentary on that. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Kerri?
Yeah. She's I don't know. I can't say anything.
Same thought. Same thought. So he gets killed, and then immediately after that, it transitions into something else completely. So you're left with this guy that you like being brutally murdered,
and then it cuts into like a complete black screen.
What?
I said, and then it just abruptly cuts into a black screen for like 2 solid minutes. You'd be like, yeah, wait for this.
2 minutes?
No, over exaggeration, but it's at least 30 seconds.
Is it 30 seconds? Okay. All right, I'll take your word that it's 30 seconds.
Just watched that twice.
I am excited to rewatch it. I'll give you that. But then doesn't it cut to right to Justin Long?
It cuts to Justin Long.
Right to Justin Long's character.
What is he singing? Is it anything that we know?
Hold on. I have it somewhere.
But yeah, he's singing in his car. It's really fun. You're getting excited, and then this takes a turn, and you're like, "What's happening right now?" there's more social commentary that starts to come out, and he gets a call, and he slowly learns because he's like a film producer, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So he's like a film producer.
He's an actor, I believe.
Oh, he's an actor in it? I thought, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's co-starring with the woman in the series.
And yeah, he gets this call, and he's like turning down the music, and then he's like, what's going on? And he's like all happy, and then slowly it starts to like dawn on him what's actually happening, and his world is crashing down because someone has accused him of sexual assault.
Yeah, so the song he was singing, I believe, was called Ricky Tikki Tavi, I believe is what it's called.
Okay. He's having a good old blast singing that song. Justin Long.
He knows all the words.
Justin Long is amazing, by the way. Can I just say that? I love him. I love him in like Drag Me to Hell. And he's just a really good horror actor. Yeah. I want to see him in more. I haven't seen Jeepers Creepers. I need to see that.
He's pretty good at playing both a jerk and a nice guy.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Justin Long.
I was about to say Jeepers Creepers. Didn't the director of that become problematic?
Oh, extremely.
There you go.
Extremely problematic.
It's connected. Everything's connected.
Yeah. And funny enough, there's a death at the end, which we'll talk about, that is actually tied into Jeepers Creepers. But before we get there, I on the first rewatch, I was like, I don't know, and I even text you guys this, I don't know if I like the abrupt cut. On the second rewatch, I knew it was coming, and I'm like, this is smart, because it does have that Pulp Fiction thing where it's like it ends one story and then turns you completely around another story, but then that second story connects right around to the entire story.
Yeah, so it's
I love movies that can jumble 3 or 4 different stories at once.
Yeah, so it's them going to, hassle these guys in the apartment with their big kahuna bird or whatever. And then it cuts to, Butch talking to Marcellus.
Marcellus Wallace, yeah.
It's the Marcellus scene where he's driving. And he gets news about how he's accused of sexual assault. And I don't know. I guess it depends on who you are. For me, because I like Justin Long, and because he was singing really fun in the car, I was like, it's not true. I don't believe that for one second. And then like slowly we find out what actually happened. I think depending on who depending on who you are, you might go, that motherfucker did it. I know right away.
He admits to doing it.
He doesn't at first.
In the bar, he does.
In the bar, yeah. With his friends.
Definitely did. He said, okay, something happened just a little bit. So he's like kind of like trying to like, water it down.
Definitely gaslighting the situation.
Yeah.
So I actually, sorry.
No, good.
But there's a moment where I'm like, no, he did it. And that was when you realize that he doesn't care about the sexual assault allegation. He keeps driving, he keeps singing through that. But it's the moment he realizes that he might get pulled from the TV show, he turns and stops the car. And that's the moment he's like, oh, so it's, all my money is being pulled from me now.
Yeah. Well, getting into, because talking about this movie, we have to get into situations like this. It's like, sometimes people who do things like that, they don't think what they did was necessarily wrong, especially like in the moment. They think like, you're making a big deal out of this. This is not that big of a thing. And I think that's how they convince themselves that they're not a bad person. They might have made a mistake, or there was some wires got crossed at some point, but I didn't actually do anything wrong. So, right?
Kerri?
Yeah, well, I do think that's a big problem with our society. Is like some people, and specifically, unfortunately, a lot of men are taught certain things are acceptable or certain things are consent when they're not actually consent.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it I think it is made clear that in this movie later on when he's in the scene at the bar that
Yeah.
I think he
Oh,
also kind of, maybe it's like he's talking through, or he's kind of admitting to himself, like, oh, this was pretty wrong.
And I like how like they kind of slowly, because you guys are right. Like he finds out, and then his life is slowly going to shit. He's still kind of calm about a lot of it. Like when he gets to the Airbnb, then he's just like worried about like how's going on with my Airbnb? Is someone staying here? Who's this? Why is this here? And stuff like that. But yeah, then the movie definitely makes clear that he did something wrong. And I think he even questions later in the movie if he's a bad person, and he's slowly realizing like, am I a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if a lot of people who have been accused of sexual assault have gotten that far.
I guess that's a fair point, although I will say it's not like he like learns and grows in this movie.
He gets to a point where he can start to grow and become a better person, but
which I love that this movie didn't make this like a redemption arc for him.
Yeah.
They're like, no, he's a complete asshole even towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So yes, Justin Long's character's name is AJ, and he gets pressured by his I guess his manager or his like money manager to sell properties and assets he has, including homes he has in Detroit. And that's when you find out he goes to the same address that Tess and Keith were at the beginning of the film, and he owns that address. He owns that house that's being put up for rent.
It was really cool to see that tie in, and that's also called liquidity.
He's trying to liquidize his assets.
Yeah. There is a funny scene where he's going through the house, and as Chad said, he's like, is somebody staying here? You see the toothbrush and everything, and then he finds the hidden passage door, and he sees the hostile type room. And instead of being like, oh, what the hell is this? Blah, 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 he gets out a tape measure and he starts trying to see if he can make more money.
I love that part.
Footage.
He's like, hey, this is a room in my basement. Can I add this to my square footage? Oh, it's called the thing? Oh, hell yeah. And then like he sees like the stairs going down and he's like, oh, jackpot.
Yeah. And then things go south for him.
And you can see where his mind is going. It's like, my life is going down. Maybe this is an uptick.
I just love the fact that he sees this obviously torture room, and he's like, can I make more money from this?
Yeah.
There was no pause in between either. He didn't think about it. He was like, can I make money from this?
Yeah.
There was just a straight up cut, I think, to him measuring.
Straight cut, yes.
Which I think that's where the great Zach Kreger like comedy comes in. Like, it's so great.
Yeah, it just cuts straight into it. And then, well, we didn't really talk about the creature that attacks and kills Keith, which we should get into that. I believe her character's name is Mother. I think it's just called Mother.
Well, we naturally learn about her as he goes down the steps too, right? Because he goes down the steps and then he gets chased and then put in a thing.
So he hears something and he runs and he gets trapped in this like cell type thing, like this little hole, and that's where we meet Tess again. Again, a great little comeback, and you find out it's been like 2 or 3 weeks that she's been there as well. So she's learned what the deal with Mother is and how to kind of survive through it as well.
Yeah, and that's where it started to get really creepy. He's very derelict and very gross. You don't know what this thing is. Like it looks like a woman, but it's also kind of like a creature. and then it's like, just all messed up. You don't know why the person is like that. And then it's like trying to feed him a bottle or like from like,
yeah, a bottle of milk.
and it's all like
Which is-
gross.
Yeah, it's milk, and the nipple of the bottle has like hair on it. You're just like, ugh. It's so disgusting. But we then have another flashback to the 1980s, and it shows the house's original owner, Frank, and you find out that he abducts women, and then that's where the hostel room comes into play. He takes them down there to sexually assault them, pretty much. And he videotapes it, which will come into play a little bit later when Justin Long's character, AJ, is in the room with an older Frank, which we'll get to in a little while. I love the kind of the dark, dreary, and then the cut into this bright, vibrant neighborhood with like all the colors, and you kind of see the dynamic of like what it was versus what it is, and then you see Frank's character, and you're like, they don't straight up say what he does, but you can tell by his mannerisms, and you can tell by like putting pieces together where it's like, oh, this dude is not a good dude because he follows a woman home. He says that he's from some sort of like water department to check the pipes, and you see him just unlock her window door, and that's all you need. Very subtle filmmaking, and I love it.
It's very good, like visual style filmmaking. You're following this guy. You don't know who he is, but you kind of can start to put things together, like you said, which is really great. And I do love the contrast of you've seen this neighborhood just torn down, and then you saw it before in its heyday. And then you even have like his neighbor who's like, "Hey, Frank, we're selling.
Going to shit," is what he says.
Everything's going to shit, and we're not going to be able to sell. So now's the time." And the guy's like, "I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah.
I think
Kerri, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it was a really cool plot device. I thought it was. I will say there's a scene later where the guy, the homeless man who had tried to save Tess and actually does save her, her and Justin Long in this movie, at least partially, or he tries. I did think it was a little heavy-handed, his like exposition scene where he's kind of like straight out tells you what the things that were hinted at in the flashback. I kind of thought that was maybe he could have done a little bit of that, but I thought the full scope of it was a little unnecessary, given that they had this really cool flashback scene that I think gave you everything you needed.
Yeah, I can definitely say that. The only thing I will say is that he adds kind of telling us what the creature is. And I think that's what the flashback doesn't do. I get that, what Frank does, but I don't know how that ties into the creature itself, which he says that there's a more dangerous creature in there than her. And that's what I'm kind of like thinking, oh, Frank is more dangerous, but why is he connected to her? That's where the homeless man comes in, and he tells us what they have in connection with each other. So that's why I'm okay with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, I don't. I think at one point he was probably more dangerous than she is. I think at this point, not anymore.
Yeah, I had thought that he was hinting that there was something like not him, but something worse than the mother.
Or like he was capable of something else other than laying in a bed and trying to find a gun with which he ends up killing himself.
Yeah. So to me, maybe
but
maybe
I do like how it kind of frames it later as also like she's kind of a victim, like she's
not
supposed to
and she's not really a creature, she's a human being.
Creature-fied for the movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep calling her a creature, but yeah, she's definitely human. But
I apologize. Okay, I'm gonna make a statement. An apology statement.
No matter how many people she's killed brutally.
All right.
Yes.
Anyone who was offended by my statements here about this woman being a creature, I apologize. She's a victim
So
of a serial killer in this movie called Barbarian.
yeah, so to me, I kind of see the homeless guy's explanation of there's something darker in there, the past history of the house itself,
Okay.
as well as Frank still being in there and still having the videotapes and having that memory of seeing the neighborhood go to shit, and that's what's more darker in there. Because to him, I don't think he sees the creature as, you know, really a monster, but as, you know, a victim of circumstance, which he says, because that's where you find out that she was made from incest, and that's why she looks the way that she does, and that
Yeah.
she was tortured and things like that. That's how they kind of, again, turn this movie on your head, because you think, oh, she was created, or she's, you know, this monster. Then you realize, no, she didn't choose to be this way. It was forced upon her, just like AJ and that whole sexual assault allegation being forced onto him as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like remind you a little bit about, like, you know, the that one episode from X-Files
Yeah.
with all the you know, inbred family, and it's just like you've seen that they've been like doing that for like so long that they're kind of deformed and they look really grotesque. And yeah, that episode I don't think has aired after the first time it aired on TV.
Really?
I think
I
so.
don't.
I thought I had seen it in
It's
reruns.
definitely
Maybe I
on
haven't.
on DVD, but I don't know. Yeah, they were like,
Maybe I
nah.
have a mistaken memory of seeing it in reruns.
I think that was one of the like notorious like episodes that were banned from TV.
Yeah.
Because it's so
Wow.
Yeah, it's really gruesome. It's very scary. It's very hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's just creepy. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we kind of go towards the end of the movie, because we talked about the homeless guy saving him. There was a very funny joke, and I don't know if it was supposed to be funny or not, but he's like, she's never been out here before, this far before. And then she busts through the door like a Kool-Aid man and beats the dude with his arm.
Yeah.
When you were talking about him, I smiled because I remembered that part. And I was like, that part was insane. Like, you were kind of expecting it, but not expecting it. You're like, that's not
I
gonna
wasn't.
Because he's saying that, like, you know, she's never been here before. She has no reason to come here. And it's just so funny that now she does, because she's like really like those are her babies. She's trying to get them.
Yeah, she's more attached to Tess, because Tess has been there longer, and she's kind of, you know, played along with the mother's I guess going more towards her motherly nature, that she feels more attached to Tess. And that's why she comes out this far, because she sees that Tess, you know, is trying to escape. And the ending of this film is fucking amazing, because that's when AJ and Tess are running, and AJ just fucking leaves Tess behind. He runs up the water tank, and he drops the gun, and then he has the moment of like, you know, bad circumstances, you know, blah blah blah. And then the next thing he does, he pushes Tess off the water tower.
So, also in the context of this, the woman is climbing up. So it's the situation is getting really tense. You're wondering what's going to happen, and then he's like, "Sorry, but it's kind of like
I can survive."
It's you or me, and then if you ever wanted to like think of like, well, maybe there's hope for him.
No.
And then he pushes her off the
Never.
tower. Oh, okay.
Because his whole idea was that he knew that mother would protect Tess, and he was like,
she jumps after her.
Yeah, get your baby. And the Amazing Spider-Man 2 crane shot where she's diving for Tess is amazing.
That's a great. I love that comparison that you just made. That's really funny. But she actually, and then it's cool because like she's kind of like, you think she's dead for sure, and then Tess is not, but she's injured. and she can't
Yeah.
walk anymore, right?
No, she's because the
Or she's like,
creature landed on top of her. So he like
mm,
mother is holding her like this as they fell. So she took all the brunt of the impact on the ground. And again, showing how much of a dick Justin Long's character is, he tries to again gaslight the situation where he's like, "Oh, you slipped. That's what it is. You know, it was you or me. You slipped. Like
yeah,
I didn't push you. What are you talking about?"
definitely. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Show that character. Yeah, and that we're basically at the end. And she wakes up and kills him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
How
is
did you do it again?
the Jeepers Creepers moment. That's how Justin Long's character dies in Jeepers Creepers. He gets incinerated from body to from head to toe, pretty much, just ripped
Whoa.
apart by the
Okay.
creeper. So that's again the comparison to that in Jeepers Creepers as well.
Very
So,
cool.
right?
I'm wondering if maybe Justin Long said, "Can we do that again?"
Probably.
And then Tess, I think you can definitely feel that she feels bad about doing it, but understands that she needs to, and that maybe it is kind of a mercy. She kills the mother.
So sad, man. I didn't expect to feel sadness towards the monster of the movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And it goes to show just how complex these things can be, because, like Kerri said, it's a monster. Well, it's a woman who is killing people, though, but also a victim of circumstance, and so it's complex. You know, like what she was doing was not her fault. Like in her mind, she was protecting her children. You know, whatever. You know, but but also
dude,
okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because I don't know if you're still talking about the movie, because I was just going to say that I just think it's so interesting that Justin Long is really good at a lot of the times at playing kind of a jerk, because it seems like he's a really nice person in real life.
Yeah, he seems awesome.
Just seeing him in interviews, and he's like kind of like, you know, self-deprecating sometimes, where he's talking about like his neighbors don't really give a shit about what he does, and it's just like, why is this guy, you know, just like leaving his place for, you know, such long periods at a time and stuff like that?
Yeah,
he's really good in their interviews.
Yeah, going back to the end of the movie real quick. The saddest part is, like, you know that the mother wants to protect Tess because she's like, "Come home, let's go home." Like, you're just like, "Oh no!" And then I don't know if this was intentionally supposed to be funny or not, but when the gun goes off and she kills mother, it immediately cuts to credits. Like the gunshot goes off and then credits.
I can see that, kind of like, well, that's the movie, you know. Take that shit, walk away, and you know, what the fuck? I don't know. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I'm gonna rewatch it again probably soon, just so I can see more Easter eggs and things like that. So before we head out, is there anything else you guys want to bring up about Barbarian?
It's a very good movie. I agree with you. I was surprised a lot about it. I still don't know if I love it or I just really like it, or really how I feel. I don't even know if I've rated it on Letterboxd, or if I did just kind of in general, or where that might go if I see it a second time. But I feel like this is a good movie to watch a second time. So I feel like we're probably going to do that at some point. I want to go through and kind of like rewatch a lot of the, you know, because Hunter was telling us before this that he loves 2022's horror slate. And I do as well. I'm not as high as him on it, but I think there's a lot of movies this year that I still just want to go back, rewatch, and just kind of like see where they sit with me. You know, like this, The Black Phone, Nope. I've only seen Nope once. So
I've seen it like 3 times already.
I know, yeah. So I kind of want to grab that like on Blu-ray or 4K or whatever and check that out again. Yeah, just a lot. Even Bodies. I adored when that came out, and I want to watch it again after knowing what that movie's about, and you know, kind of seeing if it still has the same effect. So, yeah,
Yeah.
good,
So
good so far.
Kerri?
Yeah, this was, like I said, it wasn't my favorite of the year, but I think it was a really fun one and a really solid one. And maybe that goes to you being right, Hunter, that this has been a pretty great year for horror movies. That there were ones that I really enjoyed this one, and there were still ones I enjoyed even more this year.
And I think the other cool thing about this one too, now that I'm thinking about it, is it just seems to come out of nowhere. And it's like a really good kind of like come from nowhere original horror movie that had a little bit of legs at the box office that was thrown into Dolby.
Yes.
I'm like, how many movies?
Yeah.
I don't even know if The Fabelmans is going to be in Dolby, and that might win Best Picture this year. Already knowing like the reviews and the standing ovations that Spielberg has been getting, that might just be in digital, and Barbarian got a Dolby screening. So I'm like, yeah, interesting. And I think Smile was a similar way, although I've definitely saw more trailers for Smile.
Smile was definitely very heavily promoted. This was, I think, a little bit more interesting because I think unless you sought out a preview or a trailer, I mean, we went to plenty of horror movies this year and we didn't see a trailer for this movie.
just started seeing people talk about it and go, please go see this movie and don't read anything about it.
Yeah.
And Smile, another one where it was heavily marketed, and then you go and see that one, and it's not exactly what was sold, which was a good thing because I thought it was better than what the trailers were showing.
I still need to watch that movie. I'm going next weekend to see it in theaters.
Nice.
So going through YouTube and stuff after I watched the movie, there is only one more trailer after the first teaser trailer, and it's not even called like a Barbarian trailer. It's called Justin Long's new movie. And when you watch the trailer, it starts like this, like the beach scene with him driving his car. It's this happy-go-lucky music, and it's like from the studio that brought you Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, this is amazing. And then it cuts into Barbarian, you know, the teaser trailer, and you're like, oh, that's what it is. I'm glad I didn't watch that trailer, and I watched the movie first. But the fact that, you know, they're kind of keeping things secret, Justin Long's new movie, blah, blah, blah. I wish more movies did this. I wish trailers wouldn't show us so much.
Yeah.
Because the great thing about movies is that it can take so many different turns. And when you see a lot in the trailer, you're like, where's that scene? Where's that scene? Where's this scene? This scene's coming up. It takes a lot away from the movie and the suspense from it.
Yeah, I would say some of our favorite movie experiences have been going in completely blind and being really pleasantly surprised.
Like even looking at like Wakanda Forever, like the next big movie that I'm so excited about. We're going to see it on Thursday. But we saw the first trailer for it, and I didn't even want to watch that first trailer. And then I was like, I'm going to go to the movies. They're going to show that trailer. Might as well watch it. I watched it. I loved it. And then in the theater, I saw it and I loved it. And then the second trailer dropped and I'm like, why would you do this? Yeah. That first trailer was perfect. And then I had other people who I talked to regularly who were like, the second trailer is so good. And then I'm like, yeah, but I've heard it like spoils stuff. Like, why would I watch that? I don't care how good the trailer is.
Yeah.
As long as the movie's fantastic. If the movie's not good and the trailer's great, who cares? I don't know. I'm just like, I don't care about a great trailer. I'm just like, I just want the movie to be great, and I don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah, and going into one last thing before we head out, the reason why I said 2022 might be my favorite year of horror is because you get, in this year alone, so many different types of horror films. You got your slasher and like Halloween Ends. You got your Supernatural and the Black Phone. You got your indie, like, really good, like, old school, like, Texas Chainsaw and X. You got Pearl, which is supposed to be really good. Like, there's so many different types of horror films that it's not just all slashers or all supernatural. It feels like a good, like, blend of everything we've seen in the past decade or so for horror.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just kind of like too recent for me to be like
Yeah.
2022 was the best year for horror. It's fine to say it's like your favorite year for horror, but like to me, like this is the best year. I'm like, yeah, but there's like the 70s had a lot of really great year. I don't know, it would be a good discussion maybe to do like a ranking of horror years. We could do that.
That would be fun. Horror decades.
Horror decades, yeah, because I feel like it would be like 70s and 90s would probably like run away with it, to be honest. Maybe 80s is up there too.
Well, I would say for decades,
70s.
For years, it's a little, I mean, I guess we still got a lot of movies back then, but I would say there were a good mix between like kind of schlocky like B movies.
But it depends. I mean, because I think also if you're gonna rank like a year, look, if you rank like 2022 and like 1978, I would go and I would say, okay, look, you have all of these for 2022, but how many of these are going to end up being all timers? And then 1978, you go Halloween. You got, not Black Christmas. What is the other one that came out in 1970? Texas Chainsaw.
I don't know if anything else came out.
It's another
very popular,
really great film in 1978. But anyways, yeah. But you see what I'm saying?
I would say 2019 is another big one. Because 2019 you had 2019, I believe you had Doctor Sleep, you had Midsommar, you had I believe you had a Hereditary, or that might have been 2018.
That was 2018, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so like
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That's it, yeah. So those two, but
that's the other one.
Still all timers. I don't know how many of these are actually going to be. Maybe Pearl. I need to see Pearl because I've heard so many people say about like the monologue that happens and just the performance and stuff like that. So it could be. But all I'm saying is like sometimes it takes a little time to see like how many of these are actually going to be ones that stand out for a long time. But you may be onto something, Hunter. I like your point about how it's varied. There's a lot of different movies, a lot of original movies, and some great adaptations like the Joe Hill Black Phone, adaptation. I really enjoyed. But I don't know. Some horror groups, you also like have a lot of people hating on a lot of different movies and I'm like, how? I don't know.
I think some people are just maybe racist and or sexist and
that, or all they want is Terrifier 2, which I still haven't seen.
Yeah.
Dude, Terrifier 2 apparently is so brutal that some people have passed out in theaters.
Yeah, that's the big like selling point for the movie that people have been talking about. Like,
and I'm going to go see that.
But we'll check probably both of those out soon. But we'll
All right, I believe that's where we're going to end it. Chad and Kerri, where people find you online.
Well, do you want to tease the next episode?
Do we know?
Oh, yes. Look above Chad's head. We are doing the Buffy Season 4 Part 1 ranking the episodes. I'll be watching episode 1 to 11 of Season 4 of Buffy. And we will be ranking every episode next week. Part 2 will be the week after. So I'm super excited to get back into Buffy. It's been a while. I've had a lot of different movies I had to watch, especially during October where I had to watch all the Halloween films. But, that kind of took up most of my time.
Same.
But that ranking was fun. So,
it was.
Yeah, go ahead and do your plugs.
Yeah, well, then I'll start out with that ranking. Go over to my channel, Chadwick Webb, where we rank stuff on You Ranking With Me is the show. We've done Christmas, we've done Harry Potter, we've done Edgar Wright, we've done, MCUs, we've done, and recently we did Scream, Evil Dead, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street. But I usually plug this if you watch this before. Also check out the Dill Pickle Movie Network, because we do Picture This, where we talk Best Picture movies. Last month we did 1991, and this month we're doing 2009. Very excited about it. We just watched The Blind Side, so if you want to go back to 2009, check us out this month. That'll be up later in the month. Yeah, that's all I got, I think, for
I
now.
actually don't have anything.
No, yeah, this is the only thing you normally plug.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, we have The Last Stand at the end of November, which I'm super excited for. A lot of big matches on there, including our Undisputed Championship match. Ryan Payne defending the title against Jeremy Adams. I'm super excited for that one. That will be the end of Season 3 for the Movie Trivia Challenge. We'll be back in February for Season 4, which we have some big plans for you guys. So if you did enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe to the Nerd Entertainment Network down below. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys soon.